Hello, hello. How is everyone this evening?
Good, thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for being here. I was glad to have you on. Mike,
Fantastic.
Lamar, and Pierre are here with us, and fine looking bunch.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's see, Pierre, you're the only one with hair here. What's up with that? Didn't we tell you you're supposed to be bald?
Yeah, no, I didn't plan for that.
Glad to be
sorry,
here.
sorry, I didn't get the memo. But thank you for having me. This is my first time here. I appreciate it.
Glad you're here. Do you want to tell us anything about you? It's up to you if you want to.
Yeah, so I run a show on local channel here in my city. I live in Boston. I also, do a show on YouTube and live on kick.com. So pretty much talking about, originally it was mainly just political stuff, some conspiracies, mainly like corruption in the political space and business sectors. And then we pivoted also into a little bit of pop culture stuff, just because that was doing a little better on YouTube and for the shorts and yeah. So that's pretty much a little bit of intro about me. Before that, I ran a marketing company. I just graduated college, so I was doing that pretty much all 4 years. Now that I graduated, I start work on September 18th in like a marketing field. So I just really wanted to, push as much content out as I could this summer. So yeah.
Okay. Feel free to put any links you want to, gentlemen, in the public chat. You want to do that down at the bottom right-hand corner. Put any of your links in there you want people to know about. That'll be perfectly okay.
Okay.
And with that, we'll go ahead and get into the current events. Let's see here. These are not in any particular order. The first thing is about the murder in UNC campus. I suppose y'all heard about this. A graduate student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has been arrested for the fatal shooting of a faculty member. The suspect, and I know I'm going to butcher this name, Telly Kai, or something like that, is facing charges of first-degree murder and possessing a gun on college property. The victim, Saji Yan, was an associate professor in the Department of Applied Physical Sciences at UNC. Kai was a graduate student in the same department, and Yan was his faculty advisor. And Kai's biographical page, which has been deleted but accessible to the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, revealed that he joined UNC in 2022 and previously studied at Louisiana State University and Wuhan University. The incident occurred on Monday and the arrest was made on Tuesday. The motive behind the shooting has not been disclosed by the authorities. The arrest has sent shockwaves through the UNC community and academia at large. And the incident highlights the issue of gun violence on university campuses and the need for enhanced security measures. The investigation is ongoing and further details may emerge as the case progresses. So what do you think about that? Comments? Anybody?
Well, it's a daily
Gun
occurrence.
violence is an epidemic right now.
Yeah. Every day there's a shooting of some type somewhere.
Yeah.
And you just, you can't put everybody in the country through a metal detector.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about this one, but it definitely seems like something's been going on, because I was actually I was looking at it a little earlier for my show, and it seems like before the year 2000, there really wasn't as many mass shootings before. If you look at like when social media really came out and when all the kids started going on that a lot, it seems like there's a lot of like mental health that comes with it, because it's like there were guns before, and people went to school and people went to mass events and these big events, and people had, it was even more common to have guns around in the house, like a hunting rifle or something like that. But the incidents just weren't happening, because now it's like you said, it's like every week, every day, even you can go on the news, type in mass shooting, and it seems like it's just going more and more.
Yeah,
My father-in-law was a retired lieutenant with the police department, and he used to have a youth gun club. All the kids used to go to his summer camp and learn how to use firearms, rifles, and guns, and how to respect them. And but you can't do that today. There's no way you could have a youth gun club today.
Yeah, which I'm sure they knew more about the safety that way and how to use it.
And the kids were different. I mean, we were raised, certain when now Steve and I are just a couple of days older than you guys. When I was a kid, we had gangs, but they weren't gangs. The South Side played really, really rough football against the North Side. And our parents showed up on the sidelines and were rooting for us. They had no idea that was a rumble. That was an organized gang fight, disguised as a football game. Nobody brought knives. Nobody brought guns. We were really rough and a little lacking on the rules, but that's how our gangs operated in the 70s.
yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest threat when I was in school was the bullies on the playground, You might get beat up, or you might beat up somebody, whatever,
Or you had the option to run.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have that option today.
Yeah.
I see now the guy who went to Buffalo and shot up all the people at the grocery store. He was from my hometown. He bought his gun just a few blocks from where I live, and he was raised about 10, 15 miles from where I live.
Yeah.
And, the system just didn't work because he had a history. Everybody knew he was a little off his rocker, and he had previous incidences at school and with his parents and with neighbors where, everybody knew he was going to kill somebody someday. And they just missed, the system didn't work because he bought his guns legally after being arrested a few times and being diagnosed with mental issues.
Yeah.
So, we have so many laws and they're just not being enforced. They say, let's make a new law. Well, we have 100 of them that would take care of the problem. We just don't enforce them.
So the motive has not been disclosed by the authorities yet.
No. But wasn't he a student there?
He was a student, and the guy he killed
Was a professor? Was one of his professors?
yeah. The victim was the associate professor. Yeah. And Clyde was a graduate student in the same department. So maybe he got a bad grade or something and he got irritated about that.
Well, yeah, and that all has to do with socialization and coping skills and, learning how to air your grievances without killing people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly good that people can talk things out even if they don't agree. That used to be commonplace, but nowadays it seems like it's becoming more and more uncommon. If you disagree with somebody, it seems like you're supposed to hate them. That's just ridiculous.
There's one law enforcement officer that I have a long history with, and we're just at each other constantly, but we have mutual friends.
Yeah.
And I have friends that just love him, and he never did anything for them not to.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like I have the same friends he has. Just he and I can't stomach each other.
Yeah.
But our friends, that doesn't matter. And I assure my friends, if I'm ever in a room with them, we get invited to the same event, I'm social. I'll nod my head. I'll shake his hand. Probably won't sit down and have a drink with him, but I won't embarrass anybody, and I won't challenge him in a public situation and ruin everybody else's day.
Yeah.
But one-on-one without witnesses, we go at it pretty good, but we're still not at the point where we're shooting each other.
Yeah.
Just walk away and agree to disagree.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, the second thing on the agenda is Hurricane Idalia. I know good and well Lamar is keeping up with this in his neighborhood.
It's outside my door.
Yeah. I guess there's a
Right outside my door.
Is it already getting a lot of rain and wind from it, Lamar?
Well, there's been a lot of wind. It rained a few hours ago. Just a second. Okay. It's been windy all day here in Tampa. It rained a few hours ago, and it's supposed to hit stateside or hit landfall around 3 this morning. But this morning it also said that it might just miss Tampa. So, literally praying for it to miss Tampa altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it does. Yeah. I've got a niece in Tampa, and I always said, well, we never
as
leave.
Mike and I talked earlier, I really am hoping I miss it because I didn't get any bread earlier today.
Yeah.
I think you'll survive 48 hours without a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I can do it. I got enough water.
There you go.
A little tough to do that peanut butter without the bread, but
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Lamar, I'm old. I forget things. When we were talking about Tampa, Bush Boulevard ended at Temple Terrace, and North Tampa ended, and Temple Terrace started. And when I was there, is when they developed Temple Terrace. They put a sign up and they paved about 100 yards of road, and that was all countryside. Temple Terrace had no population.
Okay.
Really?
In 1977. We were talking about where Lamar is from and where he lives, and I was there 46 years ago. I lived down there, and I couldn't remember where the cutoff was, but I lived right at the end of Bush Boulevard where Temple Terrace started.
Okay.
Now that's probably very well developed.
Yeah.
Oh, well developed. Well developed.
According to the news article,
Tampa now goes well past North Tampa.
Hurricane Idalia is intensifying and expected to make landfall in Florida, specifically targeting the state's Gulf Coast. The storm is predicted to bring once in a lifetime strength and storm surge levels to parts of the region. Florida officials have already issued evacuation orders, closed schools, and shut down a major airport in preparation for the hurricane's impact. Hurricane Idalia is projected to hit as a Category 3 storm, bringing powerful winds and a potential storm surge of 10 to 15 feet to the Big Bend area. Where's Big Bend, Lamar?
Big Bend is near like the Panhandle.
Okay.
So you're looking at between Pensacola and then the state does like this, makes that dive.
Okay. I guess that's why they call it the Big Bend.
When you follow the state out, yes.
Okay.
You go right up to Jacksonville, and then you go west to California.
Just a little ways down the road, right?
Sure. Highway
Right.
10 goes from North Florida all the way to Pacific Ocean,
Really?
right across the bottom of the United
Yes.
States. And so where Florida, the peninsula comes up to the top of Florida, and then there's that big bend in the Gulf of Mexico. That's why they call it the Big Bend.
Okay. That reminds me of Interstate 40. When I went to California, we basically stayed on Interstate 40 all the way.
Right through the middle of the United States.
Well, we
Right.
were in the southern part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Highway 10 is the southern route.
Okay.
It goes right straight through Florida, Alabama, New Orleans, Texas, all the way out to California. I spent 2.5 years hitchhiking when I was 19 years old to 21 years old. And we hitchhiked from New York to Florida, all the way out to California and back.
He was like
How
me.
long did that take?
Well, it took me 2.5 years because we got rides with truck drivers.
Okay.
And we stopped at a restaurant that was looking for a cook. So I stayed there for a month and cooked for the guy.
Okay.
And then we went to Arizona, and there was a job opening. My father was an exterminator, and there was a job opening for an exterminating company. So I stayed there for 7 months.
Okay.
And then I went up to California, and there was a truck stuck under a tree and some wires. And I said, hey, where's your unemployment office? And he threw the keys at me and he said, right here, you get this truck out and tell the boss you're his new driver. I quit. So I did. And I stayed there almost 9 months working for that company.
Wow.
And then we hitchhiked home.
Yeah, that's an adventure right there.
But that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So the worst thing that was going to happen to us in the 70s was somebody was going to
Mike,
blow
what part of
pot smoke in our
California were
face.
you in?
Well, all over.
Okay.
When we got to California, we decided we were going to come home. I decided I wanted to see a movie star, so we snuck into Universal Studios and punched some time clocks that didn't belong to us. And I actually got a job on the Love Boat as a lighting grip because we got caught, and the guy grabbed me. He says, "Tell them you work for me, or they're going to throw you in jail for trespassing." So I stayed in Tarzana for about a month and a half. Then we went up north, and I stayed in San Jose for close to 9 months, where I found that truck driver. So it was just kind of, we got in a truck, and wherever he left us off, maybe we stayed, maybe we got another truck and went on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can't do that today.
I would recommend it.
Right.
No,
No.
I wouldn't either. But it was an experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, what else we got? Suarez is no longer running for president. I bet you never even heard of him. Huh?
Oh yeah,
He is the mayor of,
the Miami, or he is the mayor of Miami.
yeah,
Oh
okay.
yeah, I heard about him once or twice.
that's
Yeah.
a big leap from
Never really
mayor.
got off the ground.
Yeah. It says he made the decision after failing to qualify for the first Republican primary debate in Milwaukee.
I'm sure there's a lot of talented people out there that just could not come up with 40,000 donors. You gotta have money to play.
Yeah, no kidding. Running for president was
Right.
considered a great honor for Suarez, who expressed gratitude towards the country and a desire to give back through public service. That is a big jump from the mayor of Miami to the White House.
Well, not as big a jump from TV star to the White House.
Well, you know, for that,
Anything's possible if you have enough money.
there you go. I always heard it said, it ain't what you know, it's who you know.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with good common sense and good business knowledge and open minds that probably could do a good job.
Yeah,
And they're just not qualified financially or politically. My wife always wanted to run for judge, and I just constantly told her, I said, you don't sleep and drink with the right people.
there you go. There you go. While his presidential campaign has been suspended, Suarez remains committed to improving the country for all Americans. So is he doing that now, Lamar?
Well, he's in Miami. I'm in Tampa. I considered moving to Miami at one point, but it's just,
Yeah.
I made the call to stay here in Tampa.
Okay. So you probably don't hear much about him then, do you?
No, not at all.
I think I saw an interview of him with a popular YouTubers recently.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. He seemed not bad. I think his dad was also the mayor of Miami, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he was the first son and dad mayor duo, I guess.
Yeah, things like that do kind of run in the family, it seems. Somebody said the other night that all the presidents have been related. Who told us that, Michael?
Kentucky guy?
Was it?
Yeah, I think Kentucky guy said
Roosevelt.
in the last 30 presidents or so, every one of them has been related to somebody else that's been a president.
Yeah.
Not all together. I mean, they're not all related, but each one of them had some type of relation that was a former president.
Okay. Suarez's campaign suspension reflects the competitive nature of the presidential race and the challenges faced by candidates in meeting the criteria for participation.
So, what do you guys think about the claims that the media is really controlling the debates and the parties?
Well, the billionaires of the world own the media and the politicians.
I miss Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
He gave you the news at 6:00, and that's the way it was, and that was the end of it. He never had an opinion or made faces, or he just delivered the news.
Yeah. And then Paul Harvey told us the rest of the story.
That's right. I didn't
Well,
realize
you know,
that Paul
news
Harvey.
is money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's why some of those guys stayed on, no matter how bad they were offending the bosses, because their ratings were up.
Yeah.
You know, you could get away
Right.
with a lot when you're making
And
millions and millions of dollars.
right. And you when you factor in with Trump, you know, he was given $1 billion of free advertising. So, you know,
You got
what
to
will
give
the
him
press
credit. He
do
knows
this
how.
time around?
You got to give him credit. He knows how to get attention, and
So,
he
you
knows
know,
how to stay in the news for free.
Yeah. He does that.
well,
Yeah, he's very good at that.
but
I think the news has definitely changed a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think I heard like essentially like before well, a lot of the news right now, it's they make their money only from pretty much streaming. Like they have to appease the advertisers more than they have to appease the people. And someone was talking about like why the news is free, because like I think everyone's heard the phrase like nothing in life is free, and then it's like, how are they giving us this for free? There has to be something that comes
Yeah.
along with it. And I think Trump has really mastered it, where he knows the game. He knows what they're trying to get out of him. He knows that they're trying to get a negative headline. So it's almost like he tries to make the things that are negative like his positives. He
Yeah.
likes when they call him stern or arrogant or a bully, even, because then to people when he's negotiating, they think of that when they're going into it. So it's like every little piece of it he's been playing with them since day one. And that is something, whether you love him or hate him, he's definitely good at it.
Yeah, you got to give him that. He's wherever he's at, he is the main topic. See, I would like to see, I'm interested in what happens in the trials, but I would just like to see the whole day go by without talking about it, and then at night have a half hour. This is what happened in court today, not 24 hours of this is what happened 5 minutes ago, and this is what happened 6 minutes ago, and it's a 24-hour story for a 6-hour court hearing.
Yeah.
And then let's talk 10 or 15 minutes and the other candidates that are talking about issues. Because I know a lot of Republicans that just want to know what's going to happen with the economy and jobs and taxes, and that's all they hear about is Donald's personal life, and they blame the news for that. They blame the news for not focusing on what the people really want to hear.
The news are going to focus on the drama. That's where the money is.
Well, for many years, Jerry Springer was the top-rated show in the country.
Yeah.
And
And even he didn't know why. I would say, why do people watch this?
yeah, train wrecks are popular.
Yeah.
But then 2,000 years ago, we used to go to the Coliseum and watch the Christians being fed to the lions.
Yeah.
So not much has changed as far as what is considered entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
true.
Lost my screen there for a second.
You know, when you listen to the other candidates, a lot of them are agreeing with Trump or backing him up. So what's the difference? Very few of them are saying something against him or not agreeing with his policies.
Well, that's because they don't want to lose the base. While the base is still with him, they don't like him, they don't want him, but they don't want to lose all of his followers the wrong way. If you know, everybody hates the guy who tells the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Telling
So-
the truth seems crazy in a world full of lies.
It is the truth. The truth is really unbelievable these days. The lies are easier to believe because they appeal to you in some way. A lie is easier to follow than the truth. And with Trump's base, all those guys really want to say what they want to say, but they don't want to lose those 40 million votes.
Yeah.
So you can't offend Trump without offending all of his followers.
Yeah. Who was it, Plato, that said no one is hated more than he who tells the truth? Something like that.
Yeah. But then you look at the guys who do tell the truth,
But
and
if I could just
nobody's killing them yet.
Right.
Now,
But
Mark,
take those followers though. We're looking at people that are saying, let's back Putin. We're talking about people who are saying let's back a liar. Let's back a person who is unfaithful to his many wives. We're talking about a person who is saying who has pleaded no contest to raping a 13-year-old, who's been found liable for raping a reporter, for defamation, for going ahead and mocking a Gold Star mother, for mocking a handicapped person. These are people that are following that type of person. And like Chris Christie is talking about, is this the type of person that we want to be the leader of the free world? Now, I'm a veteran and I'm trying not to voice my opinion, which I think is pretty clear where I'm coming from. But these are the people that we want voting, or we want I want everybody to vote, but we want their leader to be a person who goes to Liberty University and says that I wrote a book and it's almost as good as the Bible, and my favorite verse is 2 Corinthians. You can't even lie straight. But then you go ahead and have the officials or the authority push protesters back to take a picture with the Bible upside down.
yeah,
This is the type of person we want to be president, to cause an insurrection. And I really hope people study the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and find that he really is unqualified to be president.
I agree.
Because that was an insurrection.
I agree with you, and I'm not a Republican, but everything you're saying I agree with.
I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
Okay, but everything you're saying I agree with, but I'm talking to some of these people and they don't believe anything you just said is true. So, I agree. Do you really want to vote for? You want somebody who
look at their
votes for,
source. When you look at their, I'm not meaning to cut you off, Mike, but
No,
at their source. Their source will go ahead and their source is paying, what is it, $5.7 billion for lying to the public, and they haven't changed. They fired one reporter or one of their lead people, and they're still doing the same thing. You listen to some of their people, the voters, and they're saying, we know he's lying, but he's not serious. Well, if he wasn't serious, look at his actions. Okay, the papers, those are top secret papers. If it was anybody else other than him, we'd be in jail. Yeah. Just to be held in court. Now, being a veteran, I know, because you learn going in that the FBI does a background check. And I know for myself, they talked to my second grade teacher, and I went in when I was 20. So
Yeah.
with this orange idiot, or should I say this racist orange idiot? But anyway, trying to keep
I agree. I
my
agree
feelings
with
out of
you.
this.
I agree with you 100%, but his followers don't believe anything you're saying.
Exactly.
They just don't believe it.
Right. And I'm with you there.
And facts don't
Right.
matter.
They have
That's the
alternative
point. Facts don't matter. And when you deal with a person that has no facts, they'll believe anything. And that's the problem with a certain portion of our population. And that's what's scary, because those people who deal with facts, it's like saying, who's the fool arguing with the fool. And so you get people like, Steve's first story about the guy who shot the student, the people who go to schools, the people who shoot up schools, the officers who are supposed to protect children at schools, and then they don't even go to stop the shooter, and then the city says, well, he's not at fault.
Yeah.
Well, if he's not at fault, then who's at fault? I'm not saying that being a cop isn't a tough job, but why was he there in the first place? To serve and protect. And if he's not at fault for not protecting those children, who is? And then you've got these people up in Congress saying, we're here, we take the oath of the Constitution to protect, but then again, they want to do nothing regarding guns, other than saying, we've got prayers for you, for your prayers, because children are still being killed, whether it's a child at 6 years old or a child who is in his 60s. That's still a child.
So, Lamar, how do you feel specifically about the ARs and the wartime weapons being in the hands of citizens? Do we need them? Do I need an AR to go deer hunting?
Well, I'm not a hunter, so I'm not going to sound
Well,
I'm not going to make
either.
a qualified statement. I'm not a hunter, but I'm going to say for myself, I don't see a reason why Bambi needs to be shot up with a gun that was designed to kill a human. We do not need that on the streets of America. And when you look at if we were to consider ourselves civilized, other countries say the same thing, and their crime rate and murder rates have dropped precipitously. For us, we seem to think that, it's mental health. No, it's some jackass with a gun. And when we have, 5 and 6 year olds with guns killing teachers, it's one thing to blame the parent, but you should be blaming the politician. And when you have politicians saying that blind people should have a gun, where's that person's heart? And then thinking about the people that vote for those people, literally your parents were a mule and a horse. Unless that's too specific.
No, I just wish there were more.
We should not have guns of war.
I agree. I wish there were more listeners to chime in because you're preaching to the choir.
What do you think about the police having all this
Habit of my
military?
family because I'm a PK.
What about the police who
Yeah,
have
but
all
then
this?
we don't need to have. Yeah, that's what I was getting to. I don't see why we need to have all this military buildup to bust down a person's home either.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to serve a warrant, we need to burst down the person's home, have 20 people go through, and then you have Breonna Taylor. She worked for the government, and she gets shot up, and then everybody says, well, she wasn't, it was her fault. She
Yeah.
was the one that's liable because she was asleep in her own home and nobody else was at fault.
Crazy, huh?
Absolutely.
There's something wrong with a system like that blames the victim instead of the people who are the officials who were trained to have a gun, and she's the one that gets shot up.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree 100%.
Something wrong with our system.
It's a broken system, and people,
and so when you have a presidential contender, when you have a presidential contender like Tim Scott, who blames that he's from the country and he talks slow, I don't care if you talk fast or slow. When you have a situation where the police are killing people for the reason of sport, a police officer says, "Put your hands up," turn around, and the officer shoots him in the back when the helicopter has got a camera on you, and you say that the police officer should not be sent to jail, qualified to be president. Tim Scott is holding up imminent minute. I'm saying it wrong, but Tim Scott is wrong on protecting the police against going to jail and being held responsible for their own actions. These people are trained to hold a gun, and if they're killing citizens without guns, and we have enough cameras to show that these trained people with guns are acting wrongly, he's not qualified to be president. Whether it's one issue or 10 issues, that's one issue to prove that he is not qualified to be president.
But it's kind of like that last incident where the guy let the dog loose when the other police were saying, don't release him, don't release him. And then he was caught on tape afterwards saying...
one example.
Pardon me?
Well, that's one example. I was thinking about the lady in South Carolina where she told the guy, called for help. The female officer told the guy to get up. His hands are in the air. There's a helicopter up above looking down with the camera showing the whole thing. And he's walking backwards, hands in the air at the commands of the lady, and she shoots him. But Tim Scott holding it up in the Senate and saying that no, officers should not be convicted or held accountable for shooting citizens for the crime, for shooting victims. That's Tim Scott holding that up.
So why train them at all? If they're not accountable for anything, why put them through any training?
Yeah.
No, I agree, Lamar. The system is completely broken, and the motives are wrong, and the protections are wrong. It's just a tragedy the way the country.
Then you have, and then you have with. I was told today that here in Florida, the clergy, the Catholic clergy, are looking to mobilize against DeSantis and wanting him to step down for saying that the shooting that happened in Jacksonville the other day wasn't racist. So you have these presidential people who are clearly unfit for what they're doing running for office.
Which is nothing
Again,
unusual.
appealing to the faith. I'm sorry, Steve?
I said, that's nothing unusual. It happens all the time.
So Pierre, what are
Right,
they saying
but
on your
presidential
shows?
contender.
I'm not live right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to the next topic?
Sure.
COVID hospitalizations are on the rise. COVID hospitalizations in the United States have been increasing for the 6th consecutive week, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. During the week ending August 19, hospitalizations rose by 18.8%, reaching a level similar to that seen in April of this year. Despite the increase, COVID hospitalizations are still at historic lows, as emphasized by public health experts. Comparatively, current hospitalization numbers are about 2.5 times lower than the same period last year and approximately 5.5 times lower than the corresponding week in 2021. The peak of the Omicron wave during winter of 21-22 saw hospitalizations exceeding 150,000, significantly higher than the current levels. While COVID-related deaths have slightly increased, accounting for approximately 1.7% of all deaths in the past week, they remain at record lows. Experts caution that the low number of COVID fatalities should not downplay the importance of continued vigilance and preventive measures. The ongoing increase in hospitalizations suggests the persistence of COVID transmission and the need for continued monitoring and response efforts. Vaccination and adherence to public health guidelines remain crucial in mitigating the spread of the virus and reducing severe illness and hospitalizations. Think about that.
Well, I happen to know in Tennessee that at a particular school, a friend of mine who's a teacher, some of the students have COVID, or should I say are out because of COVID.
Yeah, there are some out. And that's always been a
here in Tampa with masks.
Yeah. Well, there's more people demanding it now than there was a month or two ago. Even here locally, some places are wearing masks.
Yeah, I saw in Morris Brown College in Atlanta, they're back on the mask mandate. And so, yeah, I guess schools are going back on the mask mandate. I don't know if you guys saw, there are some talks on like Twitter about a mask mandate coming back, for everyone in like October because there's a new variant. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like a round 2.
Boy, I hope it doesn't come to that. I really do. I hated that. That was horrible.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on what state you're in. It seems to be different in every state. In Tennessee, we've always had a lot of people that were strongly against the mask and strongly against closing down the schools. So it's always been a big issue here.
You know, I got all the vaccinations and I wore a mask. And I have several friends who just thought it was a farce, never wore a mask, and had 4 or 5 kids, and nobody ever got COVID. And I got it twice.
Yeah, that'll teach you.
That'll teach you. And I did everything by the book, and I still got it.
Well, me too. I got them all. I still got COVID. So, yeah, I understand.
The only place I refused to wear a mask was when I was alone in my car. I see so many people driving all by themselves in their car wearing their masks.
And the shield also.
And the shield. Well, I never understood the shield. They wear it upside down, so all the air's they're blowing all the air up through the mask, or they wear it downward with no mask under it. I just I don't think you can do an overkill, but when you just do one or the other, I thought the shield was the weaker of the two.
I find it very difficult to breathe in one of those.
Well, that's in
masks.
case some people, cover their mouth. Mike,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
because
that-
some people have this thing of being nasty. They don't cover their mouth when they.
And a lot of people were wearing the mask just over their mouth and not
when
their
they
nose.
cough, they don't cover their mouth.
Right. But a lot of them, even the nurses and doctors, they were wearing their mask over their mouth and their nose was open. They never covered their noses.
Right.
Well, a lot of people just wore them because they were mandatory and they really didn't want them to wear them to start with. You know?
Well, the 2 times my wife got it, they were doing virtual. My wife's a lawyer, for you guys that don't know. They were doing a lot of virtual court stuff. And the 2 times it was mandatory for her to show up at court. Both times she got a phone call at the end of the day saying, well, we may have been exposed. And then sure enough, within the next day or so, she got it and I got it.
Well, let's hope we don't get that bad again.
No, it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah.
And we've had a good number of people die from it in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the next item on the menu. Nationwide tests of the emergency alert system. Well, y'all might want to put this on your calendar. On October the 4th, there will be a nationwide test of the emergency alert system, EAS, and wireless emergency alerts in the United States. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is working with the Federal Communications Commission to conduct the test at approximately 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time. The test will be divided into 2 parts, one for the EAS and another for the WEA. The WEA portion of the test will be sent to all consumer cell phones, making it the second test to include cellular devices. The test message will appear in either English or Spanish based on the language settings of the phone, and it will read, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed. The alerts will be accompanied by a unique tone and vibration as specified by FEMA." So what you think about that?
As long as it doesn't occur while we're talking.
There you go. That would be wild when you come across the here, wouldn't it?
We always get the weather warning, beep, 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 right in the middle of a show that I want to hear what the next line is.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you go to YouTube a few hours later and see it all again
Yeah.
without the warning.
I don't mind them doing tests.
Well, it needs to be done, you know. It's important.
It'll save somebody's life someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that they used to say? The life you save may be your own or something like that. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you I don't have a lot to say about that one. Let's move on here. Okay, did you hear about this one? Man arrested after being identified on Instagram. A man from the Bay Area has been arrested for gun possession after a viral photo showed his partner hanging out of a Cadillac with a mini AK-47 during an illegal car show in July of 2021. The police identified the vehicle owner as Christopher Gonzalez Nunez by browsing his Instagram feed. Instagram users tagged him in photos from the incident and mentioned him by name, providing evidence for the arrest. Additionally, Gonzalez Nunez allegedly made a t-shirt with the photo and posted a picture of himself wearing it on Instagram. The viral image became a symbol of perceived anarchy in the Bay Area. I would say that he's qualified as one of them dumb criminals, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, since cell phones and cameras, some stupid people have done some stupid stuff. Hey, did you hear? I think it was the Kentucky State Fair. That young man had a gun in his pants and it slipped, and when he went to catch it, he shot his girlfriend in the butt.
No, I didn't hear about that.
And I guess it's legal to carry a gun at the state fair if you're 21, but he was 19.
No.
Nobody else got hurt. So I wonder if they're still dating.
I don't know. Good question. She probably said, "Hey, does this bullet wound make my butt look fat?"
Have to shoot the other side to
One
make them
side's
even.
deflated, though. Right.
Okay, let's see what else we got on the agenda. Americans remain divided on issues of race and discrimination. Well, that's no surprise. A recent survey conducted by the Pew Research Center reveals that Americans remain divided on issues of race and discrimination, particularly among religious groups. The survey asked participants whether the bigger problem in the country regarding race is people overlooking racism when it exists or seeing racism where there is none. Overall, 53% of Americans believe that people not seeing discrimination where it exists is a larger problem, while 45% believe that people seeing discrimination where it does not exist is the bigger issue. However, among religious groups, white Christians are more likely to believe in claims of non-existent racism. What do you think about that? Comments? Anybody?
Self-explanatory.
Do what?
He says it's kind of self-explanatory.
Oh, okay. You know, I've always had a hard time understanding how anybody can deny that systemic racism is a real thing in the United States. I mean, to me, it's very obvious.
But I think if you're a racist, you don't see it.
Oh, yeah.
You you're not talking about me, right?
I'm not talking about anybody.
No. But I'm saying that's what you'll hear from a real racist
Oh, yeah.
is I'm not racist.
Yeah.
You know, those people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Racist. I really don't believe we've come 2 inches from Civil War days when it comes to racism. I
Yeah.
don't think I don't see where we progressed at all. I was just watching the history of Martin Luther King. I mean, he had crowds of people that no politician ever gathered together. And through the civil rights and everything else, I think we're as racist or even more racist than we were in the 60s.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
You know, I joke with the real hardcore white supremacists, and I tell them, if you have relatives that come from the South and distant relatives who own plantations, you should go get a DNA test because back in those days, the slaves were good enough to have sex with, but not good enough to eat at their dining room table. And if you do a DNA test, you may be surprised to see how non-Caucasian you really are.
Yeah.
And they just look at me like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm saying, you think you're white, you may not be all white. Check your history.
Yeah.
Check your DNA.
Well,
Go back to your
but
ancestors.
but then again, Mike, the funny part, right? But Mike, the funniest part of that is humanity started on the continent. When you take it all the way back, it all started on the continent. So, how far back do you go, and then do you say that, well, I'm not black when your family started on the continent?
Well, you're talking about way back when all the continents were joined into one mass before they started shifting and separating.
Right.
Yeah. And I was always
Right.
brought up to
We all
believe
started at the same place.
that's right. And I was always brought up to believe that your pigment and your skin color was determined by where your people came from. So if you came from a desert in a sunny, hot place, you had darker skin than the people that came from the Swiss Alps in snowy regions who were very white and blonde and blue-eyed.
Right.
So your pigmentation really was
Right.
through the centuries dictated by your environment and your climate.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Right.
got Sicilian relatives that are much darker than Lamar and have some really thick afros. And I said to my grandfather, I said, if we're Sicilian, how come I have a French name? And he said, well, the French went through Sicily and that's what they left us, your last name. And I said, how come some of my relatives are so dark? And he said, well, the African Americans were in Sicily and they left some of your relatives behind. So, I mean, we're just all people that came from different regions of the world, and our skin color was dictated by our environment, not so much any other reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Wide nostrils were in hot
Right.
areas and high altitudes with low oxygen. We evolved based on our surroundings. But the bottom line is the worst white supremacists I've ever met, the worst racial bigots I ever met, really weren't too choosy whose heart they got in the transplant.
Yeah.
They didn't care if it was black or white or yellow or green. They just needed a heart or a kidney, and all of a sudden, all the racism went out the window when it came to, do you want this organ to survive? And I don't think anybody asked if they were Republican, Democrat, Independent, or what color they were. Just give me the heart.
Exactly. Okay, what's next on the agenda? The super blue moon tomorrow evening, fellas. August the 30th, the second full moon of the month, known as a blue moon, will rise. This particular blue moon is also the biggest and brightest supermoon of 2023. A supermoon is the full moon that occurs at or close to the moon's closest approach to Earth, known as perigee or perigee. I don't know how you pronounce that. The moon's distance from Earth varies due to its elliptical orbit, with perigee being its closest point and apogee being its farthest point. To be classified as a supermoon, a full moon must occur within 90% of the moon's closest approach to Earth in a given orbit. Supermoons appear larger and brighter in the sky compared to regular full moons. The occurrence of a blue moon and a supermoon together is relatively rare, happening only every few years. The super blue moon of August the 30th, 2023 will provide a unique and visually stunning celestial event. So we don't want to miss that, folks. Observing the super blue moon rise can be a captivating experience, especially when it appears near the horizon. It is recommended to find a location with a clear view of the eastern horizon and to be prepared with a camera or binoculars to capture the beauty of the super blue moon. So there you go. Did you know that already?
Yeah, well, my wife keeps up on that stuff. We have an observatory probably about 6 or 7 miles away from where we live. And where we live, we're very lucky to have um, not a lot of street lights and not a lot of artificial light. So if we don't have clouds, we can see most of these events very, very well from my back deck, because we're not surrounded with all the city lights and everything.
Well, I'm in the exact opposite situation. I live in the city, so it's never really dark here.
Well, our problem is it's always cloudy and raining.
Well, it's rainy here too.
Speaking of rain, yeah.
Well, yeah, see, we get rain on a regular basis. You get rain on a destructive basis.
Well, it's storming outside right now.
Well, I would imagine. Because you guys thought the winds were going to be 40 to 60 miles an hour, but now they're whipping up to 110, 120.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Just make sure you stay
I'm
safe.
looking at the radar on my phone. Oh, I'm not going outside. No time soon. But I'm looking at the radar on my phone, and I can see that we're going to have rain for another 2 hours or so, steady rain.
Yeah.
Now, how
At least
far
here
are
in
you
Tampa.
from? How far are you from any river or water way?
I am 20 minutes away from the bay, but I'm uphill. So I'm
Okay.
not in a flood zone.
Well, that's good.
But yes. Yes, very good. And Idalia is well off in the Gulf right now, not looking to come towards Tampa.
Good.
No, it looks like it's going to go way north, like they said, right up into the bend.
Pierre, we're not letting you speak much, so
Yeah.
feel free
If
to
it
jump in
keeps going the
anytime.
path that it is right now, it'll pass us in another hour. And then I'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're
But
good.
it's really
I
raining right
honestly,
now.
I didn't really know too much about this topic, so yeah, it's all good.
You want to introduce a topic that you do know, that you're familiar with, or that's hot on your show?
Sure. Well, I was planning to talk about it a little later tonight about the did you guys see the 2024 we're going to need visas to travel to Europe from the United States of America?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so for the first time, because always it's been that, the USA passport, you can go to Europe whenever you want. Now you're going to have to register, pay. It's $8, so it's not as much as the Europeans have to pay to come to us. I think theirs are sometimes like $400. But yeah, it's a little interesting because usually when a country has to apply for a visa to go to another country, it's because there's a little bit of a chance in the back of their mind that these people might stay longer than their vacation. But there's never really been that kind of like, I guess, worry from Europe about Americans, because they always were just like, well, all the Americans are just coming to visit. They're going to go. Why would they move here? We want to move there. But now it's like, some people say maybe it's the tides are shifting. Maybe it's for other reasons, like security reasons. Some people have, I mean, there's a lot of different theories. Like some people say that it's like to try to like limit how many people are going to Europe and stuff, because it is a little bit of a process. You have to get approved. You have to say, how long you're going to be there. But I don't know if you guys heard about that, but what are your guys' thoughts on that?
No, I haven't heard about it. And we have a friend that just came back from Italy who goes like almost every other year for vacation, because a good part of her family is there. And
Yeah.
they're very, and especially now with social media, they're very close. And she just came back like 4 weeks ago, and she didn't say anything about it. And my niece wants to get married in Tuscany next year.
Okay.
So it's something we better know about before the wedding.
Yeah. I think it's going to be as early. I think it's going to start in 2024. So after January in the new year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she wants to get married in I think September, October of 24.
Okay.
So, and that'll be in Tuscany. And I know now from New York, we can go to Canada just with our special driver's license. We don't need a passport.
Yep.
But if you drive to Canada and say you get sick or something, using your driver's license, you have to come home the same way you got there. So you can't fly home in an emergency, or you can't take a train. If you drive there, you have to drive back. If you fly there, you have to fly back.
Okay.
With using your driver's license instead of a traditional passport.
Right.
So you can't go over there and sell your car and come back?
Well, no, because a lot of people from here, because we're in upstate New York, so I'm going to say it's 4-hour drive to Canada for me. A lot of people here have dual citizenship or just go there for medical care because it's so expensive here. And so that's been a growing trend over the last 5 years, is people just skipping over to Canada to get their prescriptions, their health care, and any major surgeries.
That makes sense. Yeah. I'm in Boston, so it's like about 5 hours to Montreal.
Right.
Not too bad of a drive. But yeah, that's interesting that you have to go back in the same way you came, I guess.
Yeah. Now, if you use your passport, you can go and come any way you want. You could drive up there, sell your car, and fly back. But if you go on just your extended driver's license, you have to come back the same way you went.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now I was just up in Boston not too long ago. Went up to the Jocelyn Diabetes Eye Clinic up there, the best in the country. And I've got a friend in Massachusetts that has a bagel shop that I've known him for about 25 years. He does the old-fashioned boiled bagels, and he's honestly worth a 7-hour drive.
Okay. You got to let me know where that is. I want to try it out.
Well, if you go on my website, his website, and he's a sponsor, and we did a podcast with him. Brown's Bagels.
Okay.
Bob Brown. I met him in the early 90s when I was doing some consulting, and everybody in the country called him when they were having trouble growing their bagel businesses. And he was like the last of the old timers. When he dies, I think the traditional bagel is going to die.
Oh,
He's healthy. He'll be around a while.
Okay. I'm checking it. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, he's just north of you. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. Tough to get old.
No worries. I think I found it. Brown's Bagel Shop, right?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
I'll check it out.
My wife says I should join the gym. I said I don't have to join the gym. I go up and down the stairs about 10 times trying to remember why I went up and down the stairs.
there you go.
It's like a Stairmaster.
That's my workout, is the lack of memory.
Well, let's look at our last topic for the evening, unless somebody wants to throw in some more. The new Cold War. The United States and China are currently experiencing heightened geopolitical tensions, leading to what is often referred to as a new Cold War. The conflict is primarily between the two dominant imperialist powers in the world, the United States and China, as they compete for global economic control and access to resources. Both the United States and China seek to establish dominance over global markets and secure access to key resources, such as those in Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Imperialist powers no longer directly rule over other nations, but rather export capital and use financial control to maintain economic dependence on foreign countries. The United States and China engage in economic warfare tactics, including imposing sanctions, manipulating currencies, and initiating trade wars to gain economic advantages and weaken their opponents. Both countries utilize military power and geopolitical strategies to protect their interests and exert influence over regions crucial to their economic and security objectives. The new Cold War between the U.S. and China also involves intense competition in the realm of technology, particularly in areas of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and 5G networks. And while the U.S. often frames the conflict as a struggle between democracy and dictatorship, underlying motivation lies in economic and geopolitical interests rather than purely ideological differences. The intensifying Cold War between the U.S. and China has significant global implications affecting international trade alliances and regional stability. So what do you think about that? Agree, disagree, what?
Sending our manufacturing overseas just never, ever made sense to me. I live where IBM originated. I live where one of the biggest shoe companies was formed. I lived in, where some of the most progressive industries were birthed out of my area. And so I grew up in a manufacturing world. And I just never understood logically sending everything overseas. Financially, I understand we've regulated everything so that everything is so expensive that we have to get all of our stuff from countries that aren't regulated and have child labor and can produce products for 20 cents an hour because that's the only way we can afford to do anything. But it just never made sense to me that we regulated ourselves out of any kind of profit margin and we buy everything from unregulated countries. Yeah. And I knew some people at Universal Instruments who said they sent all their piecework overseas, saved a fortune manufacturing all their piecework, but then spent a fortune retooling it when it got here wrong. So in the end, they didn't save any money at all by having most of their products made overseas.
Yeah.
So that the logic was never there for me. I understand greed and I understand profit and I understand getting it done for nothing. I just don't understand. We blame Mexico for fentanyl. Well, all the ingredients for fentanyl are made in China. It's manufactured in Mexico, shipped into the United States through Mexico, but it originates in China. So I don't understand the politics there of let's go to war with the cartels, but not with the people who supply them.
Well, it kind of reminds me of going to war against Saddam Hussein when all of the terrorists of 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. You know? Isn't that what happened?
Well, yeah,
Well, we have
basically.
We
have to be careful when we deal with China because China is our maker. They hold a lot of our debt. And if they were to say, pay us now, the U.S. would collapse. So it's a very tight balance with what we do with regards to China.
Today it's a tight balance, but
And
why
so,
did we get into that?
how-
Why did we get into that tight balance?
Pretty much everything we buy in the United States is made in China.
My friend Mike Levine, who's a world famous former DEA agent, he was in some of the biggest drug busts in the war on drugs. And on my website, I actually have a video of him sitting with a Mexican general, making a deal to ship 300 pounds of cocaine into Texas every month. And Ed Meese, our attorney general, blew his cover while he was undercover. He barely made it out with his life. And he went to Washington. He said, Ed, what are you doing? And he said, Mike, we're trying to pass NAFTA. We can't allow you to embarrass the Mexicans right now. So let the 300 pounds of cocaine go into Texas every month. We're going to end the whole investigation because we don't want to ruin our introduction of NAFTA to the Mexican government. And I live in upstate New York. We have more salt in our Finger Lakes than the world can handle. But because of NAFTA, we buy our salt out of South America when we can get it 45 miles down the road from me. So we have to ship it in from South America, put it on railroad cars, and ship it throughout the United States because NAFTA. We have to buy so much product from these companies, whether we need it or not. That's part of the deal.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing about corn syrup, fructose corn syrup, in the South. Apparently, there's a bunch of natural cane farms or something.
Yep.
And then, but we sell all of that to Europe, and we buy the high fructose corn syrup,
Right.
which is a lot worse for you.
That's right. It's worse for you. In upstate Pennsylvania, not far from me, they got into fracking and drilling, and all those little tiny towns grew and grew and grew, and everybody was here fracking, and we built a pipeline. So everything we took out of the ground went to Canada or went to overseas, and our gas prices went up, our taxes went up, our property expenses went up, while we're digging up the very fuel that everybody else is buying at a discount. And now the pipeline is finished. There's only a couple maintenance guys there.
Right.
And all those all those diners that expanded have empty space. All the hotels that expanded have empty space. It was a 5-year, like a gold rush. And now it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
And we didn't benefit from the fuel that we took out of the ground. We sent it all over.
Do you remember, Mike, when we were kids, most of the things we purchased in the United States came from Japan? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Everything said made in Japan.
Yep.
Now it's made in China.
Made in China, made in Taiwan, it's all overseas because somehow it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But, I think we learned during COVID, when the ships get tied up, we don't have anything. We don't know how to make it, and we don't have the facilities to make it.
Yeah.
So we couldn't return to self-sufficiency if we wanted to.
Yeah.
It would take 5 or 10 years to build the factories and to retool, and God only knows where the labor is coming from.
And just about all of the computer chips are made in Taiwan. So that's the big problem right now.
Yeah, sure. Kia, I think it was Kia that recalled some ridiculous hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cars. And because all the computer chips were faulty, they went back to the 1950s ceramic fuses that they used to put in cars in the 50s because the chips were faulty. They couldn't get any more chips, so they're recalling the cars, and they're putting the 1950s, 60s ceramic fuses back on the dashboards and the firewall.
Wow. What could possibly go wrong, right?
Well, see, that's what I tell my wife. I always wanted a 69 Dodge Charger. Well, now every car costs $40,000, $50,000. So let's get the muscle car, that has no chips, no major electronics, And if it doesn't start, you stick a screwdriver in the carburetor and it starts and you go.
There you go. There you go.
The only trouble with that is now I'm so old, I could never drive by a high school in that car because people would think I'm a pervert trying to pick up girls.
Of course not.
I lost Lamar there.
Well, gentlemen, has anybody else got a topic you want to talk about or anything at all?
I was just thinking about how Steve and Mike, what do you think about with Medicare being able to fight with lower prices on drugs?
I'm on Medicare now. I've reached that age. I've been on Medicare for a year. And I've had some pretty significant health issues. And the doctors say, sorry, Mike, I know what you need, but Medicare won't pay for it. So when I was near death with a blood infection, they gave me 14 days of antibiotic through a PICC line, through an IV. I should have had 36 days, but Medicare wouldn't pay for it. So if I wanted to get a second dose, I had to go to an emergency room. I had to basically lie and say I was having symptoms in order to get what I really needed in the first place. So, it's not, I don't see where it's any cheaper than my private insurance. We were paying my wife and I were paying $27,000 a year for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And now we're on Medicare and we're paying $500 a quarter. So we're paying significantly less, but what Medicare doesn't cover, I'm still paying $26,000 a year for what it doesn't cover. So I think it's great. Now I'm on insulin. Insulin is supposed to be $35 for seniors, right? I pay $70. And I say, is this 2 months worth of insulin? They go, no. And I said, well, how come I'm not paying $35? Well, because Medicare doesn't cover this particular insulin. If you want to pay $35, you have to get the inferior generic insulin. Can't get the good brand name insulin.
I've had a different experience. I've been on Medicare for several years. It's the best insurance I have ever had.
Well, it depends on your history and what your existing illnesses are.
Yeah.
I've had diabetes for 27 years, and that's a big issue. With the medications. Now, you'll like this, talking about Medicaid and Medicare and stuff. My last 5 serious blood infections were from E. coli. So I don't know if the spinach wasn't washed. I don't know how I got it, but I got E. coli 5 years ago. And I've had 4 near-death episodes where I got rushed to the hospital and put into the hospital, and the doctors each time told my wife he might not be here tomorrow morning, but I was. So I called this study. It's I can't think of the name of it, but there's a study for seniors with E. coli. I don't qualify because I've had it too many times. They want people who had it once and who haven't had it for a couple of years because they want to get this drug FDA approved. And they can't have people that are at high risks that will actually prove that the drug doesn't prevent anything.
Yeah.
So they're very picky when they come out with these FDA approvals. Well, who are they really testing? They're testing low-risk people who are not likely to get at whether they're taking the pill or not. And what's nice is with the young kids today, they're very honest, and I'm very outspoken. So I said basically I talked to 4 different centers to make sure the story was the same. And each one of them kind of said, yeah, you're right. You're too high risk and you'll make us look bad. So you got to give this younger generation credit for being honest. You maybe better not tell them the whole truth about the study because they're going to blab it out.
All goes back to the money.
So I'm overqualified. I've had the infection too many times to be in a study.
Well, gentlemen, anything else on the agenda? Pierre, you have talked too much tonight, my friend.
Sorry about that.
Just teasing. You're okay. You're okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. No other topics on my end, but.
Well, Steve and I were talking before the show, and I think we're going to put some questions out prior to the show. And if you want to come back on, feel free to suggest what you're interested in talking about. And, because you got 2 old farts here trying to conduct.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. No, that sounds good. I'll throw some in and we'll make like a yeah.
And Lamar, same thing.
Yeah.
Just give us some suggestions on what you're qualified to talk about, interested in talking about. And I know Steve is very interested in just keeping people active and in conversation.
Yeah. I just want to keep it going.
Okay.
If we have to, we'll tell jokes and gossip.
Sounds good to me.
All righty, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate it. And I do hope you all come back.
Thank you for having me. It's the first time, but I thought it was great. It was a nice.
Well, I hope you come back.
Yeah.
Generally, you're here on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Okay.
And even if I forget to send you a notice the day of or day before, you're always welcome. Just shoot me a email or a text or whatever, and I'll send you the link if I forget to send it to you. Sound good?
All right. And when you go get your bagel, tell Bob the second one is on me. So
okay.
Buy one, get one free. Tell him I gave you a special coupon.
Okay. I'll tell him you sent me.
All righty, gentlemen. Well, I'll say good night to you. Everybody stay safe, especially you, Lamar. Don't go outside. Stay inside and hunker down.
Yes.
All that.
We'll be looking to hear from you, Lamar.
Yeah. It's pouring outside. It's pouring outside right now.
I've got a good friend down in Orlando. He bought his 68 convertible Camaro when we were in high school, and he races it to this day. 40-some years later, he's still racing that same Camaro.
Oh, wow.
So I called him today. I said, did you buy the pontoon boat for the car? Because I don't care if you drown. I just want to make sure the car's in good shape when you leave it to me.
There you go.
So
gentlemen,
keep us posted.
Y'all have a good evening and get you next time, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Pierre. Lamar, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.